We were unrecognizable. Our fleeing looks were the window of our souls broken by fear, paranoia, and lack of sleep. The air was heavy from Heimrich. We were asphyxiated by his more sulfurous and toxic machinations than his breath itself. We were defeated before he even showed up. The dragon demanded a ransom in minerals, of course, but also a dozen of our men. The best of us. Our comrades were delivered to never reappear. We were so ashamed of our cowardice that we knew we deserved the next humiliation. The spared had to mark each other the shoulder with the red iron of its terrible symbol. The stigma of defeat could thus be hidden but never erased in our lifetime. Satisfied with our obedience, he then agreed to let us resume the vital transport of civilians, women, and children to the south. His dragonkins patrolled the convoys, enjoying the fear they inspired. Fortunately, the dragon respected the agreement and shed no blood. To conclude, he gave us a few months to climb his mark on the nearby cliff. For centuries, a simple glance at the ladder would remind of the humiliation. That was the price of our offense. That of having unwittingly built our bastion as a challenge in his eyes. The silent gods, the destabilized empire, and the capital in the hands of the freed. How long had the lizard been waiting for this moment when we would be so dependent on the fortress, and so vulnerable to defend it? Fortizia Meridiano, Silent Headquarters, Notebooks in the year 300 BC. Heimrich, the Black Flame, the King of Ashes, the Insidious Terror, is the oldest of the primordial dragons in activity. The end of its awakening cycle is expected in a few centuries at the latest. And it is unlikely that a hero or nation will be able to rush to sleep. He is also perhaps one of the most evil. The minor Dagon lynx and dragons that compose it have obsidian scales, crossed with cinnabar stripes. This cruel dragon particularly greets over these two minerals. Enemy of most nations, Heimrich comes to his ends through manipulation and fear. It has no known fief except a few fortified enclaves. And indeed many people serve it without knowing it. His dragonkins are capable of dark magics that affect the mind and senses. They can blend into a society, infiltrate its workings to the highest level, and parasitize it, or better yet pervert it for its purposes. Anyone can be one of his dragonkins, anyone can be Heimrich. Or one of his agents. When a dragonkin of Heimrich appears with his face uncovered, his only aura makes his interlocutors nervous. The most aligned with the egregore are able to fly despite their lack of wings. They levitate then a few centimeters from the ground. They express themselves in a deep, melodious, and calculated voice. On the other hand, their anger is swift and mute, often murderous. Heimrich does not hesitate to intimidate and demand in a situation of strength, or to cajole, flatter, seduce, or deceive when the situation lends itself to it. Heimrich treats his allies and vassals hardly better than his enemies. He does not hesitate to sacrifice them, or even simply humiliate them if they are weak, and of course abandon them if his interests go in that direction. Many leaders, for fear of repercussions, prefer to pay a tribute of wealth and blood when an emissary of the dragon comes to claim it. Heimrich likes to possess but also humiliate and torture the creatures he considers inferior. He considers himself better than his draconic peers, but the latter, sometimes rivals, have his consideration. It does, however, abhor humanoid peoples. These creatures that swarm, parasitize and thrive on what he considers his heritage. There will be no this inserted audio clip if you buy the software license key or activation key. These creatures who would have betrayed their protectors, in a time that dates before the times. Because Heimrich is resentful and considers that the whole world owes him reparation. He ruminates every affront, real or imaginary, until he is avenged. The victims of his cruel and terrible revenge, sometimes centuries later, serve as a warning to those who still dare to challenge him. Because of his predatory and cruel nature, Heimrich has many enemies, but few of them openly declare themselves afraid to get his full attention. The free countries, already in open conflict with him less than 2 centuries ago, are in his sights. No one knows when his revenge will fall on the free cities of this territory already at the crossroads of powerful nations. But it will.